It may be that we are more divided than we have ever been. The Daily Mail reports Donald Trump's approval rating sits at 38%, with 91% of Republicans giving him their backing and just 2% of Democrats in record partisan split. This is worrying. And it's kind of the theme of what I've been talking about, potential for civil war, how they lie and how they manipulate, and how people are too blind to realize what's really going on. I think a large contributing factor to what's happening is news media. And I've made this point many times before, that when you have multiple outlets all write different things because they didn't do their job and actually fact check, watch videos, and get statements, you end up with a large group of people who are blindly following the media and a lot of people who are not. Many people have said that the real divide between the factions of the culture war is authoritarian versus libertarian. Maybe. Some have said it's nationalist versus globalist. Perhaps. Many typically just say left versus right. Maybe it's those who trust media and those who don't. That's a big aspect of Donald Trump's pitch, the fake news, the enemy of the people. And I've routinely point out the media's lies and how they and their constant lies. So does Tucker Carlson. Perhaps the real issue is that everything is derivative of the fact of whether or not you actively pay attention to the news, or do you just trust them? Because if you just trust them, what do you learn? In the previous segment, I talked about how they will tell you it's great that people are protesting. No, it doesn't spread COVID. But then they'll tell you that the anti-lockdown protests did. Or in the previous segment about how they'll say Trump is propping up Confederates, while the New York Times literally says tear down Jefferson. Maybe it's an issue of people who read the news and people who don't, or people who read too much news and people who read too little. I don't know. But this to me is worrying. And I think it should be worrying to you because everyone keeps saying, come November, no one will trust the results of the election. I agree. What does that mean? I don't know. I know that you'll likely not see. It's going to result in big fights, court battles, and we don't know who would win in the end. They say Chief Justice Roberts is a swing vote. Maybe it'll come down to the Supreme Court. Biden could win. Trump could win. No idea. But we do have some interesting news. The Supreme Court ruled faithless electors are not allowed. They cannot go rogue. This ruling came today, and this is important. You see, one of the scenarios I presented was that a potential for civil war, as someone emailed me this, and they said, what if a swing state goes for Trump, but the governor then says, no, we're going to go with the national popular vote, and instructs their electors to vote for Joe Biden instead, leading both to declare victory. This should theoretically rule this out because the Supreme Court has just ruled Electoral College members cannot go rogue, meaning if they're appointed and the state is pledged to Trump, they must vote for Trump. But it doesn't mean we won't see chaos because people still can theoretically go rogue. And then what do? What happens if a handful of swing state electors just say, nope, do something about it? What happens if they jam up the system? In the end, Trump wins because the Republicans control the House. So who knows? The main issue here is the division is real and it's not going to get better. The Daily Mail says on Monday, Gallup released June polling numbers that showed 91% of Republicans support Trump, but just 2% of Democrats, as Trump's lower approval rating overall stayed steady at 38%. The 89-point difference is even bigger than the split pollsters saw in late January and early February during the president's Senate impeachment trial, which registered an 87-point gap. And it's certainly because, as I've pointed out, the media is lying to you. They claim that Trump is propping up Confederates. He's not doing it. Please share this stuff. Please share that article. Please let people know. You don't have to like Donald Trump. You are free to hate the man. Just be honest about it. He was not talking about Confederates. Here we can see they say, polling from May 28th to June 4th saw Trump's approval hovering in the high 30s as well. Then in June, he upped his support among Republicans from 85 to 91%. At the same time, he lost ground with independents and Democrats. From late May to late June, he dropped from 39% to 33% with independents, which could be problematic going into the November 2020 election. Democratic support went from 5% to 2%. And while 38% is low, the president saw lower numbers, 35%, 4 separate occasions in 2017. Additionally, in early May, Trump's approval rating tied with his personal best at 49%. Actually, it was higher than it's ever been in the aggregate. Now, according to Gallup, Here's what I find interesting. Will Trump actually win with the strategy he is using? I believe that Trump is in a bad position. There are many reasons to suggest he's going to have huge advantages, but I believe he has net negatives that are holding him back more than the net positives he's gained. But some people would say otherwise. They think Trump's core base will never abandon him, and that's 40%. Even though his approval is down, there are a lot of people who disapprove of the president, but who will still vote for him. That's an important factor people haven't thought about. Now, when it comes to the polls about who people will actually vote for, now we see likely voters. What about unlikely voters? That's who Trump has targeted in the past. What if he's targeting them now? What if Donald Trump has realized that if he makes the culture war an issue for every single American possible, he wins? The Americans that care about America. How many people go out on the 4th of July and lit off fireworks, but aren't very political? A lot of people. We all saw those videos of the fireworks lighting up across LA and Philadelphia. These people might not be overtly political, but if Trump can light them up, they will vote for him. They really will. Because they're scared of a fringe far left element. The Daily Mail goes on to say, this was amid the coronavirus pandemic, but before the president's handling of the Black Lives Matter demonstrations that took place after the death of George Floyd, a Minneapolis black man, this we know. Since late May, the president has lost ground with every major voting bloc, but maybe the polls are fake news. You know, I got to say, it's a fact that people will vote for who they think is going to win. It's true. We've seen it. We've seen the data. We've seen the research. If you say Biden's going to win, people will be like, I guess I'll vote for him. And maybe that's what we're seeing with the fake news. I'm not one to believe in conspiracies. I believe the polls for Trump are probably bad. But I've also seen them lie, cheat, and steal before. In my previous segment, we talked about how the Brookings Institute's Tom Wheeler lied about what Trump was talking about. The media routinely says Trump is praising Confederates because they're either ridiculously stupid or they're lying. Take that into consideration when you look at the polls. Maybe the pollsters are all ridiculously stupid, or maybe they're lying. And it makes it look like Trump is going to lose. This is exactly what happened in 2016. It seems to be happening all over again. An uninspiring candidate with a weak platform that can't rile up a base, people won't show up for. And what do we have today? The same thing with Joe Biden. Are they really just betting that people hate Joe Biden less than they hate Trump, and that's why they're going to win? I don't think so. Now they announced, I should say Kanye West announced a presidency. Maybe that press was enough to steal some votes from Joe Biden. That's what the left thinks. In the end, I think about it this way. Donald Trump has supporters. Donald Trump has haters. That's the election. Will the haters outnumber his supporters? I do not believe so. I really don't see it. I really, really don't. And if that's true, it means the Republicans should win everything. Again, they had everything in 2016. Are they going to have everything again in 2020? I'm not entirely convinced. But I think if that sentiment is real, then maybe. The problem now is, will there be cheating? On either side, will there be voter suppression? Will there be media manipulation? Will there be lawsuits? I seem to think so. That's why I highlighted the Supreme Court ruling. Because at least Trump has this in his back pocket. Faithless electors will not stop him. But as for the split, my concern is what happens after November 3rd. What happens if Joe Biden wins? Joe Biden has promised to transform this country. I am not kidding when I say we have seen 10 years of history in a matter of months. I implore you, go read the history of the Civil War, the American Revolution. These wars were for years. Years. Did you know that the American Revolution was a process of over 20 years? How did we come this far in so short a time? And what were the founding fathers doing on most days? Could you imagine this? We talk about the revolution as if everything was happening from flash to flash to flash, but in reality, some big battle would happen, and there would be months of what? Just waking up, cooking up some bacon, having your breakfast, reading the paper, and that's it? Doing your work? Maybe that's the problem. I mention this all the time, our view of history is condensed, but the speed at which communication happens today is causing everything to move 100 times faster. When people would finally get word of the battle that happened at the, Shenandoah River or over at Harper's Ferry or whatever. When people would hear about those things, how long did it take? It maybe would have taken several days. Now, some people pointed out to me they had, telegraph lines, so maybe several days. What about now? The moment it happens, it's on our phone. That's why we see Black Lives Matter protests happen in Europe, on the other side, in other countries when the George Floyd incident occurred. So what happens come November? I don't know, but the polarization is severe. Worse than maybe it's ever been. And some have said worse than it's been since the Civil War. So you make every assumption you want. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.